Hello everyone, this is CS Harshad from HGPA. If I have to share you the biggest financial frauds on the Indian stock market, I would name them a few. In 95, it was the MS Shoes fraud. In 96, it was the CR Bansali fraud. In 2001, it was Ketan Parikh's fraud. In 2008, it was the fall of Satyam Computers. In 2010, it was the Sahara India Parivar fraud. In 2013, it was Sarda Chit Fund fraud. But the most biggest fraud on the Indian stock market, which shook the entire nation, it was done by Harshad Mehta in the year 1992. It was the biggest fraud on the Indian stock market. Well, in this video, I'm going to explain in detail what happened in the Harshad Mehta fraud with giving you factual figures. So please do watch the video till the end. It's going to be an interesting one. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can get notifications regarding same videos like this one. Before explaining you what happened in the Harshad Mehta fraud, let me just give you a little background of who was Harshad Mehta and how our entertainment industry also have been inclining towards the story. If I want to brief you a little bit, in the year 2006, there was a movie named called Ghafla which depicted Harshad Mehta's story. Right now in the year 2020, there's a web series going on by the name The Scam 1992 which has become pretty famous. Well, the upcoming movie in which Abhishek Bachchan leads Harshad Mehta as a lead role is also describing the same. Who was Harshad Mehta? Let me get this started. Harshad Mehta was a simple man. He graduated from Lala Lajpat Rai College in Bombay in 1976 with his commerce degree. His father was into textile business, but he never had inclination towards his father's textile business. He did pretty odd jobs in sales department, in hosiery, in textile, in diamonds, but it was of no use. Well, afterwards he got little bit interested towards stock market, and that's where in 1980 he joined a brokerage firm in Bombay, and that's how it all started. He got more interested in that. In less than 4 years of span, he formed his own company by the name Growmore Research and Asset Management Company. From 1984, he actively started trading with his brother. He started investing heavy in the Indian stock markets. But it was all a fraud. Harshad Mehta was so famous during these days that people started calling him the Big Bull, the Raging Bull, and also the Amitabh Bachchan of stock market. He had a lavish lifestyle. He had a 15,000 square feet of apartment in the center of Bombay. He had all the foreign cars, all the imported cars, when even the richest person in India couldn't afford it. How was he getting so much of money? So, before I start explaining what happened in the fraud, let me tell you the loopholes in the Indian stock market which were there in 1990s. Starting first, there were unregulated stock exchanges. There was no regulator at all. So if you're asking me one thing, what about SEBI? Security Exchange Board of India, the regulator of the stock exchange, was set up in the year 1988. But there were no statutory powers allotted to SEBI. Statutory powers to SEBI were allotted in the year 1992. To be very precise, the date was 13th of April 1992. Even the rules which were amended afterwards, it was in late October 92. So, during 81 and 92, there was not a specific regulator at all. Moreover, insider trading took place at a very enormous scale. All these loopholes were present, and there were also certain techniques which were legalized that time. Starting with the Butler System, that is forward trading concept. Now, what exactly is Butler System? Let me tell you in short. If any person wants to go bullish about any stock, so what is going to happen? He needs to invest money in the stock market. But what happened in Butler System was that any person who wanted to go bullish, he can invest in any stock without even putting the money. In 15 days of span, any share, any stock in which he has traded can, if it is profit, he would have squared off the transaction only if it's profitable to him. So, if it's a loss, he would come out of it. Harshad Mehta ruthlessly exploited this Butler trading concept. Later on, Government of India banned Butler System in India, but all the stock exchanges in India, they amended their bylaws and they also incorporated this Butler system in their mechanism because there are a lot of profit to But let me tell you one thing, in the later part of 1980s, Butler System was completely scrapped on the Indian stock market. Now this was the biggest loophole in which Harshad Mehta was very much involved. Now going forward also, before I start the scam, let me tell you little bit highlights also of what exactly did Harshad Mehta do to getting in all these funds. We have to understand one simple thing, and that is ready forward deal. In the early 90s, RBI, that is the regulator of all the banks, it issued an order to all the banks in India that every bank in India should invest minimum amount in the government securities, that is the GSEC securities. Now every bank was under pressure to invest more and more money to require and to make requirement of these norms set up by the RBI. So remember one thing, every bank in India need to have what a little bit of amount in government securities. It was an order by RBI. Now because of this order, many banks were undergoing financial liquidity crunch because all the money was locked up in government securities. So banks needed to have a lot of money for the day-to-day operations. So bank needed to go to another bank for loan. And this is where the ready forward market deal comes into picture, and Harshad Mehta exactly knew what to do about this. He used to bring two banks together. Now let me give you an example. This bank A and this bank B. Now bank B is heavily invested his money into the government securities. Bank B needs loan, and bank A is in a position to give loan to bank B. So bank B goes to bank A and tells that I want loan. So bank A will go, let us say for example, rupees 100 crore loan has been passed on to bank B. Now bank A is not going to give loan just like that. It will ask for some security. So bank A will ask for the government securities which bank had already invested in the RBI. Now this was simple transaction. Take the loan, hand over the securities to bank A, and that's it. But tell me one thing, how do these banks come to know that there's demand and supply? For means who is giving the loan, who wants securities? So, and that's where the broker comes into picture. Harshad Mehta exactly knew which banks wanted loan and which banks were offering the loan. So he bought all the banks all over India, and he was a middleman for them. So Harshad Mehta was not only the broker involved in all these. There were many other names also. For example, there was Harshad Mehta Group, that is a Grow More Research. Second was the Dalal Group, and the third was Fair Growth Services Limited. And this Fair Growth, FSFGL, is where shareholders were P. Chidambaram and his wife Nalini, which were the main shareholders. Later on, I'll just come to that part also, where Chidambaram resigned due to this fraud. Now, Harshad Mehta bought the two banks together, exchanged the requirements. He used to take the loan from one, but the problem was that the loan never went on to the other bank's name. The loan went on to the Harshad Mehta's name, Harshad Mehta's account. So in our example, where bank A gave loan to bank B, it was not in the name of bank B. The check was issued in the name of Harshad Mehta. And the securities which bank B gave to bank A, it was not given directly to bank A, but it was given to Harshad Mehta. Now, Harshad Mehta, with this check of 100 crores, he invested this money in the stock market. And that's why the stock market started booming, because a lot of money was being put in the stock market by Harshad Mehta. Now, summing up all of these things, Harshad Mehta used this temporary loan, that temporary period, to invest in the stock market. So let us say in our example, if bank B and bank A are doing some transaction with each other, and bank A has given a 100 crore loan to bank B, now Harshad Mehta used to invest there, he used to take profit, and he used to again settle the transactions. It was a win-win situation. No bank or no other channel had any clue what was happening with the money, because Harshad Mehta used to return all the money to all the banks, and again the government securities go again back in their account. But Harshad Mehta took one more dangerous step, and this was far more dangerous than the previous one. There was a concept of bank receipt. So I'll tell you what exactly is a bank receipt. Reserve Bank of India issued this statement that even bank receipts are allowed in lieu of the government securities. Now why was this? Because due to this transaction, due to this minimum requirement of government securities, Reserve Bank of India declared one thing. So Reserve Bank of India had this PDO office, that is Public Debt Office. In public debt office, there was this SGL ledger, that is a Security General Ledger account, where you need to do manual transaction. During those days, there was no demat account and all. So any banks doing this transaction, they need to go there physically and do a signature over there that they are doing these kind of transactions. This was all legal. Now comes the concept of bank receipt, that is BRs. Now what's a BR? So in our example, where Bank B and Bank A was there, if Bank A is giving loan to Bank B needs to give some securities to Bank A, that is government securities. But during bank receipt, what is to happen is that Bank B will give BR instead of government securities. So in that BR, it's an assurance, it's a guarantee that we will give you government securities at a later point of time. And this is where Harshad Mehta did one more big fraud. He started issuing fake BRs. Fake BR as in, there was no government securities with the bank. He bribed all the officials of bank, and I will tell you, these two banks were Bank of Karad and the second bank was Metropolitan Cooperative Society. In these two banks, Harshad Mehta bribed the officials and told them to issue fake BRs in their name. Now, if you have a fake BR, you can get the amount from any bank you want. And that amount was very huge. And this amount was in fact invested in the stock market, which was booming, it was bullish, and he exactly knew. Let me tell you one simple factual information. The stock of ACC rose from rupees 200 to rupees 3000 and even more only because of Harshad Mehta. It reached 4400 also. Now, this was only possible due to lots of funds. Harshad Mehta, in short, was controlling the bullish market. Now, this was all the scam. But what happened in front? There was one more point in which Harshad Mehta had more benefit. In 91, PV Narasimha government was formed in India. The respected Manmohan Singh was the then finance minister. Manmohan Singh ji came out with financial reforms in the country. If you can recollect, the LPG, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization reforms were being brought into India. Let me tell you one thing, even the Ministry of Finance believed that all the stock market fluctuation, all the stock market rising, all the booming was due to these reforms. People had faith in the government regulations. So everyone in India thought that because of these reforms, these LPG reforms, Indian stock markets are shooting high. But it was the other way around. There was a big fraud happening. Later on, when Sucheta Dalal of Times of India, when she exposed Harshad Mehta, then this fraud had finally come out. If you go by factual figures, there were 2-3 parliamentary committees which were set up by Government of India. The first one being the Joint Parliamentary Committee, the second one being the Janki Ram Committee report. In the Janki Ram Committee report, they stated a 4,000 crore scam. But later on, in 91, it was stated that there was 12,000 crore scam. So if you get the total estimate, it was more than 15,000 crore scam. If you have this value right now in 2020, it is more than rupees 1 lakh crore. Harshad Mehta was arrested, but after this scam, let me tell you that the stringent, the compliances, the legal compliance, even the stock market compliances was about a different picture. SEBI stringent norms, there were many acts, there was prohibition of insider trading, so a lot of new laws and new regulations came after this fraud. Also, National Stock Exchange, that is the recognized stock exchange in India, was incorporated in the year 92. NSE is the first demat stock exchange in India. So, this was the biggest fraud of Harshad Mehta. Harshad Mehta did die on 31st of December 2001. Okay? But there were many cases filed against him, those who were faced and those who were continued by his brother Ashwin Mehta. Okay? So, this was all the fraud regarding Harshad Mehta. Whole explanation. Okay, I hope you have liked it, and let me tell you one more thing. If you need more explanation on any financial fraud in India, please do write in the description below or in the comments below. I will be very happy to tell you more on these frauds. Okay, thank you so much for watching.